On her birthday, she demanded a $3,000 designer bag, saying, "If you really loved me, you'd prove it." I asked, "Funny, you didn't get me anything on my birthday." She smirked and fired back, "I am the gift. Just being with me should be enough." I just nodded, but what she unwrapped weeks later wasn't exactly what she had in mind. My relationship with Sarah was a slow burn. We dated for 2 years, and for the first 18 months, things were great. She was ambitious, funny, and we just clicked. We decided to move in together about 6 months ago. The apartment is in my name, a detail that seemed unimportant at the time. I have a stable career and make a good living, so I took on the lease myself. Around the same time, she decided to quit her steady job to launch her own business as a lifestyle consultant. It sounded a bit vague to me, but she was passionate about it. She sold it as helping people organize their lives, improve their wellness, and find their personal brand. I'm a practical guy. I believe in giving people a real shot to follow their dreams. We made an agreement. I would cover our shared major expenses, rent, utilities, groceries, for 1 year. This would give her a runway to get her business off the ground without financial pressure. She would use her savings for business expenses and personal spending. It felt like a fair partnership. I was investing in her and in us. I was not, however, signing up to be a walking ATM. The change was subtle at first. Her business seemed to involve a lot of long lunches and shopping trips, which she documented online. Her best friend, Jessica, who quit her job a month after Sarah to become her business partner, was a constant presence. Jessica was one of those people who oozed entitlement. She saw my support for Sarah not as a kind gesture, but as the bare minimum. Together, they started to change. The talk was always about brands, aesthetics, and what things cost. My contributions to our life were no longer seen as part of a partnership, but as an expected service. My own birthday passed 2 months ago with barely a mention. She was busy with a client meeting that turned out to be a spa day with Jessica, based on the pictures they posted later. When I brought it up, she just waved it off. "Oh babe, you know how busy I've been. We'll celebrate properly soon." We never did. I let it go, telling myself she was just stressed with the new business. But a seed of doubt was planted. That seed bloomed into a forest last week, on her birthday. She had been dropping hints for a month, circling a specific designer handbag in magazines and leaving the webpage open on her laptop. It was a $3,000 bag. For her birthday dinner, she picked a place that cost a fortune. Just the two of us. Over appetizers, she got straight to the point. She slid her phone across the table, showing me a picture of the bag. "So for my gift," she began, not even framing it as a question, "I was thinking this. It's an investment piece. It's important for my brand to project a certain level of success." I looked at the price tag on the screen, $3,000. I thought about my own forgotten birthday. I decided to test the waters. "It's a nice bag," I said carefully. "Funny, you didn't get me anything on my birthday." The look she gave me was not one of guilt or apology. It was pure, unfiltered condescension. She let out a short, sharp laugh. "Oh, come on, you're not seriously comparing." She leaned forward, a smirk playing on her lips. "I am the gift. Just being with me should be enough for you." There it was. The truth of our relationship laid bare on a ridiculously expensive tablecloth. I wasn't her partner. I was her patron. My role was to fund the lifestyle she felt she was owed, simply for gracing me with her presence. In that moment, something inside me went cold and quiet. The man who loved her checked out, and a much more pragmatic man took his place. I just looked at her, held her gaze, and nodded slowly. "You're right," I said, my voice perfectly calm. "My mistake." Her smirk widened. She thought she had won. She thought I had accepted my place. For the rest of the dinner, she was glowing, talking excitedly about all the places she would wear her new bag and how Jessica would be so jealous. I just listened, smiled, and paid the bill. She had no idea that her birthday gift was already being planned. But it wasn't a $3,000 handbag. It was a lesson in consequences, wrapped in the finest paper my quiet, calculating anger could buy. Update 1. The week after Sarah's birthday dinner was an interesting one. I played the part of the devoted, compliant boyfriend perfectly. I told her the designer bag was a fantastic idea and that she deserved it. I said it would take a little time to arrange the funds, but that I would have it for her soon. she bought it completely. Her attitude towards me became even more condescending, a mix of smug satisfaction and impatience. She and Jessica would have loud phone calls when I was in the apartment, talking about my training and how I was finally learning my place. I just put on my headphones and let them talk. They were building my case for me. My first move was quiet and digital. I logged into our shared credit card account, the one I paid off every month. It was supposed to be for emergencies and joint expenses. I went through the statements for the past 6 months, line by line. It was not a pretty picture. Hundreds of dollars on lunches I wasn't invited to. Thousands on clothes, shoes, and spa treatments she claimed were networking expenses. It was a clear and consistent pattern of abuse of our agreement. She wasn't using her savings for her business. She was using my credit line. I downloaded every statement and created a spreadsheet, color-coding her personal expenses versus anything that could remotely be considered a legitimate business cost. The final tally was shocking. She had spent over $15,000 on personal luxuries, all on my card. Next, I visited the management office of our apartment building. I explained that my girlfriend, who was living with me but not on the lease, would be moving out in the near future. I wanted to understand the official process for removing an occupant and changing the locks. They were incredibly helpful, gave me the necessary paperwork, and confirmed that since I was the sole leaseholder, I had every right to determine who lived in the unit. I filled out the forms but didn't file them yet. Timing was everything. The plan began to take shape. Sarah's birthday gift would not be a single event. It would be a series of unwrappings. Each one would strip away a layer of the comfortable life she took for granted. I started moving my own money. I opened a new checking account at a different bank and rerouted my direct deposit to it. I left just enough in our old joint account to cover the next month's rent and utilities, making it seem like nothing had changed. I also contacted a friend of mine who is a financial analyst. I explained the situation and asked him to do an informal audit of Modern Bloom, the consulting business Sarah and Jessica had started. It didn't take him long to find that the business had no real clients, no income, and its official address was a post office box. Its only online presence was their social media accounts, which were filled with pictures of them enjoying the lifestyle I was funding. The centerpiece of my plan, however, involved the designer bag itself. I told Sarah that to make it extra special, I wanted to buy it for her in person. I suggested we make a weekend trip out of it. There was a high-end designer outlet mall about 3 hours away. I told her we could go there, she could pick out the exact bag she wanted, and we could have a nice romantic getaway. She was ecstatic. This was exactly the kind of grand gesture she felt she deserved. She spent the next 2 weeks planning her outfits for the trip, talking about the photos she would take with her new trophy. Jessica was, of course, deeply involved, advising Sarah on how to best leverage the unboxing moment for maximum social media engagement. The day before we were set to leave, I put the final pieces in motion. I took the completed paperwork to the apartment management office and filed it. Her key card would be deactivated in 72 hours. I then called my credit card company, reported my card as lost, and requested a new one with a new number be sent to my office. The old card, the one she had saved in all of her online shopping accounts, would be declined by the end of the day. I packed my bag for our weekend trip, a strange sense of calm settling over me. Sarah was buzzing with excitement, completely oblivious. She thought she was heading towards the ultimate validation of her status. She had no idea she was driving straight into the consequences of her own making. She thought she was about to unwrap a $3,000 bag. In reality, she was about to unwrap a brand new life, one that I had carefully designed for her. Update 2. We drove up to the outlet mall on Saturday morning. Sarah was in high spirits, playing a curated playlist of annoying pop songs and talking non-stop about her plans for the bag. I just drove, nodded, and smiled. The mask of the doting boyfriend was firmly in place. We arrived at the mall, and she made a beeline for the designer store. She found the bag immediately, holding it up like a religious artifact. The sales associate, a woman with a practiced plastic smile, fawned over her. Sarah spent the next 20 minutes taking pictures of herself with the bag from every conceivable angle. "Okay, I'm ready," she finally announced, marching up to the counter. "He's buying it for me." I walked up and handed the sales associate my credit card. The old one. She swiped it. A moment passed. She swiped it again. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, her smile faltering slightly. "It's being declined." Sarah's face fell. "What? That's impossible. Try it again." The associate tried one more time. "I'm sorry, the transaction is not being approved." Sarah turned to me, her eyes flashing with anger. "What is wrong with your card? This is so embarrassing." "I don't know," I said with a shrug. "Must be a mistake. Don't worry, I have a backup plan." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a crisp, white envelope. I handed it to her. "Happy birthday," I said. She snatched it from my hand, a look of annoyance on her face. She was probably expecting cash. She tore it open. Inside was not money. It was a single key and a folded piece of paper. She unfolded the paper. It was a receipt for a 10 by 10 foot storage unit, located about 20 minutes from the outlet mall. The receipt was marked prepaid for 1 month. She stared at it, confused. "What is this? A joke?" "No joke," I said. "Your gift is in there. It's a very special, one-of-a-kind bag. I had it delivered there for you. It's a surprise." Her expression shifted from confusion to suspicion, but the lure of a surprise gift was too strong. She was still convinced this was all part of some elaborate, romantic gesture. We left the store, the $3,000 bag sitting forlornly on the counter. The drive to the storage facility was tense. Sarah was quiet, staring out the window. When we pulled up to the gate, I entered the code from the receipt and the gate slid open. We found her unit easily. I unlocked the padlock and rolled up the metal door. The storage unit was not empty. It was filled, neatly and carefully, with every single thing she owned from our apartment. Her clothes, her shoes, her furniture, her lifestyle consultant business supplies, all of it, packed in boxes. On top of one of the boxes sat a large, clear plastic garbage bag. She just stood there, staring at the contents of her life, packed away in a concrete box. "What is this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "This is your gift," I said, my voice even. "It's the gift of independence. You said that just being with you should be a gift enough for me. So I decided to give you the opportunity to be a gift to yourself." I reached into the clear garbage bag and pulled out the item inside. It was a handbag. A cheap, plastic-looking knockoff of the designer one she wanted, the kind you buy from a street vendor for $20. It was stuffed with papers. "This is your new bag," I said, holding it out to her. "And this is your new business portfolio." She didn't take it. She was in shock. I opened the fake bag and pulled out the papers. "First," I said, holding up the color-coded spreadsheet, "an itemized list of the $15,000 you charged to my credit card for personal expenses over the last 6 months. I consider this a business loan. I expect to be repaid." I dropped the spreadsheet on the ground. "Second," I continued, holding up another document, "a copy of the notice filed with my apartment management, officially removing you as an occupant. Your key card was deactivated this morning. You have 30 days to remove your belongings from this unit before I stop paying for it." I dropped the notice. "And third," I said, holding up the final thick stack of papers, "a complete forensic analysis of your business, showing 0 income, 0 clients, and a pattern of using my financial support to fund a lifestyle you could not afford. I've taken the liberty of sending a copy to a few people who might be interested, like the IRS, for example. Claiming to run a business without any actual business activity can be problematic." Her face was white. The smirk, the condescension, the entitlement, it was all gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated panic. "You can't do this," she stammered. "I just did," I said. I tossed the cheap handbag and the remaining papers onto a box. "You wanted to prove what my love was worth. I decided to prove what your presence was worth. The answer is nothing. You are not a gift, Sarah. You are a liability, and I'm cutting my losses." I turned and walked away, leaving her standing in front of her storage unit, surrounded by the wreckage of the life she thought she was entitled to. I didn't look back. I got in my car, and as I drove away, my phone started ringing. It was her. I let it ring, and ring, and ring. Final update. The drive home was the quietest 3 hours of my life. My phone buzzed constantly, but I ignored it. When I finally got back to my apartment, I had 27 missed calls from Sarah and a dozen more from Jessica. The voicemails were a predictable mix of screaming, crying, and threats. I listened to one for about 10 seconds before deleting them all. The next morning, the real campaign began. Sarah, unable to reach me directly, unleashed Jessica. I started getting texts from numbers I didn't recognize, all with the same message. I was a monster, I was a bully, and I had to fix this. They also launched a full-scale attack on social media. They posted long, vague stories about a manipulative ex who had thrown an innocent woman out on the street for no reason. They painted me as a villain, a classic case of a man trying to control a successful woman. Their followers, of course, ate it up. The comments were brutal. But I was prepared. I didn't engage publicly. Instead, I executed the final phase of my plan. I had a group chat with our closest mutual friends, about 10 people who knew us both well. I sent them a single calm message. Hey everyone. I know you're probably seeing some things online about my breakup with Sarah. I'm not going to air our dirty laundry in public, but since you're my friends, I want you to have the facts. Attached is a financial report detailing the situation. Make of it what you will. I attached the accountant's report and the spreadsheet of her credit card spending. I didn't add any emotional commentary. I just let the numbers speak for themselves. The response was immediate. Within an hour, I had messages from almost everyone in the group, all expressing shock and support. The story of her spending my money while pretending to run a business spread like wildfire through our social circle. The public narrative they had tried to create was dead on arrival. Sarah's situation went from bad to worse. Without access to my apartment or my credit cards, her entire lifestyle vanished overnight. She and Jessica apparently had a massive falling out. Jessica, who had been enjoying the free ride as much as Sarah, was not interested in helping her now that the money was gone. She had her own problems. That copy of the business analysis I mentioned sending out, one of them went to the state unemployment office. It turns out both Sarah and Jessica had been collecting unemployment benefits while claiming to be building their business. An investigation was promptly launched. Sarah, homeless and friendless, had no choice but to call her parents. From what I heard, they were furious. Not at me, but at her. They had believed her stories about her booming business and had even loaned her money, which she had apparently spent on more clothes and brunches. She ended up moving back into her childhood bedroom, a 30-year-old woman with a mountain of debt and a failed business. About 3 weeks after the storage unit incident, I received a letter from a lawyer. It was a clumsy, threatening letter demanding financial support and compensation for emotional distress. I simply forwarded it to my own lawyer, along with the $15,000 invoice for her credit card spending. My lawyer sent back a response so sharp and legally airtight that I never heard from hers again. The letter included a reminder that I had a very strong case for fraud and that pursuing the matter further would likely result in legal consequences for Sarah that went far beyond financial liability. The final, most satisfying moment came about a month ago. I was at a coffee shop and I saw a mutual friend who had been in that group chat. He came over to my table. "Hey man," he said. "I just wanted to apologize. When I first saw Jessica's posts, I wasn't sure what to think. But after you sent us that report, wow, you handled that with class." He shook his head. "Sarah called me last week asking to borrow money. She was complaining about how you ruined her life. The lack of self-awareness is just incredible." That was all the confirmation I needed. I didn't ruin her life. I just stopped paying for it. She was the one who built her entire world on a foundation of lies and entitlement. All I did was kick out the supports and watch it crumble under its own weight. My apartment is quiet now. I got rid of all the stuff she left behind. It feels like my own space again. I'm still paying off the debt she racked up, but it feels different now. It's not an expense. It's the cost of a lesson learned. A valuable one. I learned that a true partner invests in you. They don't just spend you. And I learned that some people think love is a transaction. They think their presence is a gift you have to pay for. But the best gift you can ever give yourself is knowing your own worth and having the strength to walk away from anyone who doesn't. She wanted a $3,000 bag to prove my love. Instead, she got a $20 knockoff filled with receipts for the life she threw away. And honestly, I think that's a much more accurate price tag. At my birthday dinner, she laughed and said, "You're not exactly Instagram material, so don't expect any photos tonight." Everyone laughed, except me. But when the cake came out and she saw who brought it, the whole table went silent. I've been with Jenna for 4 years. To understand what happened last night, you need to understand the woman I thought I was dating versus the woman she became. When we met, she was incredible. Sharp, funny, driven, and had this warmth that made you feel like the only person in the room. We built a life together. I was the stable one, the quiet one. I have a good job that I'm proud of, one that allowed us to have a beautiful apartment and travel a little. She was the social one, the one with the vibrant circle of friends. In the beginning, it worked. I grounded her, and she brought me out of my shell. Over the last 2 years, though, something shifted. Her 2 best friends, Ashley and Maya, became a constant presence. They are the kind of people who live their lives through a phone screen. Every brunch, every walk in the park, every single moment had to be curated, filtered, and posted for validation. Slowly, they started to change Jenna. The woman who once loved quiet nights in with a movie started talking about our brand as a couple. The woman who used to praise my work started making little comments about how it wasn't very glamorous. She became obsessed with appearances, with creating a life that looked perfect, even if it didn't always feel that way. I put up with it because I loved her. I saw glimpses of the old Jenna underneath the surface, and I kept hoping she would re-emerge. I supported her ventures, including the small online business she ran with Ashley and Maya, a boutique that sold overpriced home decor. I wasn't a simp. I was a partner holding on to the belief that the person I fell for was still in there. I paid the majority of the rent on our apartment and handled most of the bills, not because she couldn't, but because my income was more stable, and it allowed her the freedom to pursue her passions. That was the arrangement we made, and I was happy to do it. That was my mistake. I didn't realize she had started to see my support not as a partnership, but as a service. Which brings us to last night, my 35th birthday. Jenna had planned the whole thing. A dinner at a trendy, expensive restaurant downtown called Aperture. It was the kind of place with mood lighting so dim you could barely read the menu, where every plate is designed to be photographed. The guest list was small. Me, Jenna, and her 2 loyal lieutenants, Ashley and Maya. From the moment we sat down, I felt less like the guest of honor and more like an accessory she was begrudgingly carrying. The 3 of them were a whirlwind of activity, taking selfies, adjusting their hair in the reflection of their butter knives, and staging photos of their cocktails. I just sat there, nursing a whiskey. The first real jab came when the appetizers arrived. Ashley slid a plate of oysters into the perfect lighting and snapped a dozen photos. "Jenna, you have to post these. The aesthetic is everything tonight." Jenna looked at me, then back at her friends, and laughed. It was a brittle, dismissive sound. "Oh, we're not posting anything with him in it tonight. Let's be honest." She looked directly at me and said the words that changed everything. "You're not exactly Instagram material, so don't expect any photos tonight." Ashley and Maya burst into laughter, high-pitched and cruel. It wasn't a joke, it was a judgment, a declaration. In their world of curated perfection, I was the flaw, the thing to be hidden. I just stared at her. The hurt was sharp, but something else was sharper. Clarity. The fog of hope I'd been living in for 2 years vanished. I saw her and her friends for exactly who they were. I didn't say a word. I just gave a small, tight smile and took a sip of my whiskey. The old me would have been wounded. The new me, born in that exact moment, started making a plan. The rest of the dinner was a blur of their chatter. They talked about influencers I'd never heard of, trips they were planning, and how their online boutique was about to get a huge new client that would change everything. They spoke as if I wasn't even there. I just listened, nodding occasionally, my mind working like a machine, assembling pieces, calculating trajectories. Jenna must have mistaken my silence for submission. As the main courses were cleared, she patted my hand with a sickeningly sweet smile. "Don't be so sensitive, babe. You know I'm just teasing. We'll get a photo of you with your cake." "Of course," I said, my voice even. "I wouldn't miss it." The waiter came over. Will we be having dessert this evening? Before I could speak, Jenna cut in. Oh, that's all been taken care of. We have a special cake being delivered. She winked at Ashley and Maya, who giggled in anticipation. They thought they were in complete control of the evening's narrative. We waited. 10 minutes later, I saw movement near the restaurant's entrance. The manager was personally escorting someone through the dining room. Jenna, Ashley, and Maya all sat up straighter, phones at the ready, expecting some pastry chef with a fancy box. But it wasn't a pastry chef. It was a woman named Isabella Rossi. To understand the significance, you have to understand who Isabella is in our city. She's a legend. She started with a single, tiny Italian restaurant 2 decades ago and built it into a culinary empire. She's respected, she's powerful, and she's known for not suffering fools. She is, in the world of Ashley and Maya, the ultimate status symbol. She walked towards our table carrying a simple, elegant cake. She wasn't dressed like a delivery person. She was dressed in a sharp, tailored suit, looking like she owned the place, which in a way, she did. Her reputation owned every restaurant in this city. Jenna's jaw went slack. Ashley and Maya looked like they'd seen a ghost. They were fumbling for their phones, but also frozen in shock. Isabella arrived at our table and placed the cake directly in front of me. She ignored the 3 women completely. She smiled a warm, genuine smile at me and said, "Happy birthday, partner. Sorry I'm late. The final permits for the new venue came through. We're officially greenlit." She placed a hand on my shoulder. I couldn't let my investor celebrate his 35th without the best tiramisu in the city. The entire table went silent. A deep, profound silence that sucked all the air out of the room. Jenna's face had gone from smug to confused to utterly horrified in the span of about 10 seconds. She was staring at me, her mouth slightly open. Ashley and Maya were looking back and forth between me, Jenna, and Isabella, their brains visibly short-circuiting. I looked at Jenna, the fake smile gone from my face, replaced by a calm I hadn't felt in years. I picked up my fork, cut a piece of the cake, and said, "Jenna, you remember my silent partner, Isabella, don't you?" I'm sure I've mentioned her. I hadn't, of course. For the past year, I had been quietly investing in Isabella's new flagship restaurant, a project that was the talk of the town. I wasn't just some silent money man. I was a strategic partner, handling the logistics and property side of the deal. It was my biggest venture, and I had kept it completely to myself. Jenna just stared, speechless. The woman who had just declared me not Instagram material was now sitting across from the most photographed and respected restaurateur in the state, who had just called me her partner. The irony was so thick you could taste it, and it was sweeter than any cake. Update 1. The silence at that dinner table was the most satisfying sound I have ever heard. Jenna, Ashley, and Maya just sat there, paralyzed. Isabella, a true professional, didn't linger. She wished me a happy birthday one more time, gave me a knowing look that said we'll talk later, and walked away, leaving a crater in the middle of our table. Jenna finally found her voice, a weak, stammering whisper. "Partner? Investor? What is she talking about?" "Isabella and I have been working on her new restaurant for the last year," I said calmly, taking another bite of the tiramisu. It was, as promised, the best I'd ever had. I handled the site acquisition and the build-out. It's a business venture I've been very excited about. Ashley and Maya were staring at me like I had grown a second head. The disdain they usually wore was gone, replaced by a frantic, confused respect. Suddenly, the boring guy who wasn't Instagram material was a player in their world of status and connections. The car ride home was a masterclass in awkward silence. Jenna kept trying to start a conversation, her voice unnaturally high. "I just don't understand why you wouldn't tell me about something so huge. We're supposed to be a team." "You seemed pretty busy focusing on our brand," I replied, not taking my eyes off the road. "I didn't want to bother you with the details." The moment we walked into our apartment, the facade crumbled. "What was that, Mark?" she demanded. "You brought Isabella Rossi to my dinner to humiliate me?" "It was my birthday dinner, Jenna," I corrected her. "And I didn't bring her. She came as a friend, as a partner. The fact that you were humiliated by that says more about you than it does about me." She didn't have an answer for that. She just stood there, watching as I went into the spare room and closed the door. I slept on the pull-out couch that night. The next morning, I was up before she was. I made my coffee, got dressed, and left. Before I walked out, I placed a single, freshly printed document on the kitchen counter where she'd be sure to see it. A 60-day notice to vacate the premises. The apartment was mine. I'd signed the lease long before she moved in, and she was never officially added to it. Legally, she was a tenant, and I was her landlord. It was a cold, brutal move, but her comment at dinner had shown me that our relationship was just a transaction. I was simply ending the business arrangement. My phone started blowing up around 9 a.m., a string of frantic texts. "What is this? You can't be serious? You're kicking me out?" After everything, I didn't reply. Instead, I called a company that specializes in high-end home staging and liquidation. I explained the situation. I had an apartment full of furniture and decor I wanted gone, professionally cleared and prepared for sale by the end of the day. They assured me it was a rush job, but for the right price, it could be done. I told them the price was no object. While Jenna was at work, trying to process the eviction notice, a team of 6 professionals descended on our apartment. They worked with quiet, ruthless efficiency. Every throw pillow, every scented candle, every piece of beige furniture that Jenna and her friends had spent months curating for their aesthetic was wrapped, boxed, and removed. They cleared out her closets, packing her clothes into wardrobe boxes. They took everything that wasn't a personal keepsake of mine. When they were finished, the apartment was empty, echoing and sterile. It was a blank canvas. Then the staging company I'd hired came in. They brought in sleek, modern furniture, bold art, and professional lighting. By 4 p.m., the apartment didn't look like our home anymore. It looked like a feature in an architectural magazine. It looked expensive, tasteful, and masculine. It looked like a place a successful investor would live. At 4:30 p.m., I sent Jenna a single text message. "Your belongings have been packed and placed in a secure, climate-controlled storage unit. Here is the address and the key code. You have 30 days of prepaid access." I then called a real estate agent, a contact I'd made through the restaurant deal, and told her I had a prime downtown apartment, newly staged, that I wanted to list for lease at a premium price. She was thrilled and promised to have the listing up by the next morning. The real genius of the plan, however, was yet to unfold. Remember that huge new client Ashley and Maya were so excited about? The one that was going to change everything for their little online boutique? I knew who it was. Jenna had let the name slip a few weeks ago, the Beaumont Hotel Group. They were launching a new line of luxury residences and wanted a local boutique to handle their welcome kits and staging decor. It was a massive, reputation-making contract. What Jenna, Ashley, and Maya didn't know was that I had a connection to the Beaumont Group. The head of their new development, a guy named Arthur Vance, was a casual acquaintance. We'd met through a mutual contact in the construction industry. He was old school, a man who valued integrity and professionalism above all else. He had no patience for the superficial world of influencers. I sent Arthur a simple email. "Arthur, hope you're well. A quick, informal heads up. I heard you're considering working with a boutique called Modern Nest for the new residences. My soon-to-be ex-girlfriend is a co-owner. I can't speak to their business practices, but I can tell you that their personal conduct and judgment are, in my opinion, severely lacking. Just thought you should know. All the best, Mark." It was subtle. I wasn't making accusations. I was just planting a seed of doubt from a credible source. Arthur was a man who trusted his gut, and he trusted the people in his network. An email like that from someone he respected would be more than enough to make him reconsider. I knew he would do his own digging, and when he did, he wouldn't like the shallow, unprofessional social media presence of Jenna, Ashley, and Maya. I got home to my newly staged empty apartment around 6 p.m. It felt peaceful. I poured myself a whiskey and sat on a leather couch I'd never seen before. An hour later, my video doorbell chimed. It was Jenna. Her face on the screen was a mask of fury and disbelief. I let her buzz for a full minute before I answered. "Mark, what happened? Where's all our stuff? The key you gave me is for a storage unit. I thought it was a joke." "It's not a joke, Jenna," I said, my voice calm through the speaker. "I'm redecorating. Your things are safe. You have 30 days to collect them." "You can't do this. This is my home," she screamed, her voice cracking. "Read the lease," I said, "and the notice I left you this morning." Then I disconnected the call and turned off the notifications. Phase 1 was complete. The foundation of the life she thought she had was gone. Now it was time to watch the rest of it crumble. Update 2. The 2 days following what I now call the Great Clearing were a storm of digital rage. Jenna, blocked from my phone, resorted to email and messaging apps I rarely used. The messages were a predictable cocktail of fury, disbelief, and threats. She accused me of being cruel, of being a monster. She threatened to call the police, which I knew was an empty threat. She threatened to sue me, another bluff. I didn't respond to a single one. Silence was my most powerful weapon. Her friends Ashley and Maya tried a different tactic. They launched a smear campaign on social media. There were vague, tear-filled posts about betrayal from those you trust most, and how some men can't handle a strong, successful woman. They didn't use my name, but the implication was clear. Their followers, a small army of online sympathizers, lapped it up, leaving comments about how Jenna deserved better and that she was better off without my negative energy. It was annoying, but I knew it was the desperate act of people who were losing control. The real blowback came on the 3rd day. I received an email from Jenna. It was different from the others. It was cold, formal, and clearly written by someone with legal knowledge. It demanded I cease all contact, return her half of the apartment's contents, and provide financial support for the lifestyle she had become accustomed to. It ended with the line, "My lawyer will be in contact to discuss the division of our shared assets, including your recent business ventures." She was coming after the restaurant deal. She thought that because we were in a long-term relationship, she was entitled to a piece of my success. This was the move I had been waiting for. This was where she would truly overplay her hand. I forwarded the email to my own lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman who had helped me structure the investment with Isabella. Her reply was swift and confident. "Let her try. The investment was made from a private trust you established 5 years ago, using funds you held prior to your relationship. She has no claim. This is an intimidation tactic. Do not respond." Meanwhile, my seed of doubt with Arthur Vance at the Beaumont Hotel Group had begun to sprout. I got a call from him that afternoon. "Mark," he said, his voice a low grumble. "Arthur Vance here. I got your email. I appreciate the heads up. I looked into that little boutique you mentioned." He paused. "You were being diplomatic. Their entire online presence is a circus of unprofessionalism. Not the kind of people we want associated with the Beaumont brand. We're terminating our preliminary discussions." "I'm sorry to hear it didn't work out," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Don't be," Arthur grunted. "You saved me a headache. We owe you one. Let me know if you need anything on the new restaurant project." The news must have hit their camp like a bomb. Around 5 p.m., I got a frantic voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. It was Ashley. Her voice was a hysterical shriek. "Mark, you have to call them back. You have to fix this. The Beaumont contract is gone. They just sent us an email, a 1-sentence email ending the deal. This was everything for us. You did this. I know you did." I saved the voicemail. It was a beautiful piece of evidence, a clear admission that they believed I had the power to influence major business deals, a direct contradiction to the unsuccessful boyfriend narrative they had been pushing. That evening, the smear campaign on social media escalated from vague posts to direct, though clumsy, attacks. Maya posted a long story about a friend who was being financially abused by her controlling ex who was trying to ruin her career because he was jealous of her success. The comments were vicious. People who didn't know me at all were calling me every name in the book. This was also part of the plan. I had been waiting for them to cross a line, to make specific, defamatory statements. My lawyer had advised me to just let them build the case for me. The final piece of this phase fell into place the next morning. The real estate agent called. She had already hosted 3 showings at the apartment. One of them, a wealthy executive who had just relocated to the city, had made an offer on the spot. He wanted to lease it for 2 years, fully furnished with the new staging, at a price 20% higher than I had been asking. He was willing to pay the first 6 months up front. I accepted immediately. The apartment was officially off the market. With the contract signed, I finally broke my silence with Jenna. I sent her a single, consolidated email. Jenna, attached you will find a copy of the new lease agreement for the apartment. As you can see, it is no longer available. Your 30-day window to retrieve your belongings from the storage unit remains in effect. You will also find a letter from my attorney. It addresses the baseless claims to my personal assets, all of which are legally protected from any claim you might make. The letter also serves as a formal cease and desist notice regarding the ongoing defamatory social media campaign being waged by you and your associates. We have documented every post, every story, and every comment. If this harassment does not stop immediately, we will pursue legal action for defamation and seek damages. Finally, I have attached a detailed invoice. It covers the cost of the professional packing and storage of your items, as well as the full cost of the birthday dinner at Aperture, which was charged to my credit card. I expect payment within 15 days. This will be my final communication with you. Any further correspondence must go through my lawyer. Mark. I hit send and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had been calm, logical, and had used the system they respected, the system of money, lawyers, and contracts, against them. They had tried to fight a war of emotion and public opinion. I had fought a war of logistics and legal fact. And I had won. I knew it wasn't over. Her pride was wounded, and she would likely lash out again. But I had taken away her home, her perceived claim to my success, and the business deal that was supposed to be her ticket to the next level. She was cornered, and I was in complete control. Final update. The aftermath of my email was exactly what you'd expect, a complete and total meltdown. But this time, it was a meltdown in a vacuum. She had no way to reach me. Her friends' social media accounts went quiet. The vague, angry posts replaced by an eerie silence. The cease and desist letter had clearly worked. The threat of a real lawsuit with real financial consequences had scared them straight. About a week later, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Jenna had a screaming match with Ashley and Maya. She blamed them for everything. She blamed them for filling her head with nonsense about status and appearances, for pushing her to see me as inadequate, and for encouraging the disastrous social media campaign. Their little trio, once inseparable, had fractured under the first sign of real pressure. Their friendship, it turned out, was as superficial as their Instagram feeds. Jenna's attempt to fight me legally went nowhere. Her lawyer, after receiving the detailed breakdown of my finances and the legal structure of my investments from my attorney, must have advised her that she had no case. I never heard from him again. The entitlement she felt to my success crashed against the hard wall of legal reality. The invoice I sent her became a major point of contention. She refused to pay it, of course. So after 15 days, my lawyer simply filed a claim in small claims court. It was a minor amount of money, but it was about the principle. She was served with a court summons at the apartment she was temporarily crashing at with Ashley. The humiliation of that, I'm told, was profound. Faced with an actual court date, she finally paid the full amount. The biggest consequence for her, however, was the loss of the life she had taken for granted. She was homeless, sleeping on a friend's couch. Her grand business plan with the Beaumont Group was in ashes, and she had alienated the one person who had provided the stable foundation upon which she had built her entire curated world. I heard that she tried to get back into the social scene, but the story of what happened had started to circulate. Not the one she and her friends had tried to spin, but the real one. People in our city's business and social circles talk. Isabella Rossi, when asked, would simply say that I was a brilliant and loyal partner, and that it was a shame my ex-girlfriend couldn't see it. That simple endorsement from a woman of her stature was enough to cement my reputation and completely dismantle Jenna's victim narrative. Ashley and Maya's online boutique has struggled immensely since losing the Beaumont contract. That deal was supposed to be their launchpad. Without it, they are just another small, forgettable online store. Their friendship with Jenna is reportedly over for good. They now see her as the liability who cost them their one big shot. About 2 months after my birthday, I was having dinner at one of Isabella's other restaurants. I was sitting at the bar when a woman approached me. It was one of Jenna's other friends, someone who was on the periphery of her main circle. She looked hesitant. "Mark?" she asked. I just wanted to say, I heard what happened, and I'm not surprised. The way she and Ashley and Maya talked about you when you weren't around, it was awful. You did the right thing. That, more than anything, felt like validation. As for me, life has never been better. The new restaurant I partnered on with Isabella opened 6 weeks ago to rave reviews. It's the hottest ticket in town. My investment has already paid off handsomely. The apartment is leased, and the extra income is just a bonus. I've been focusing on my work, my health, and reconnecting with friends I had neglected while I was trying to keep Jenna happy. I learned a valuable lesson. A partnership has to be built on mutual respect. The moment one person starts seeing the other as an accessory, or a stepping stone, or worse, as not Instagram material, the foundation is cracked beyond repair. I didn't set out to be a mastermind of revenge. I simply decided to stop being the quiet, accommodating guy and start being the man who built his own success. I took her insults and her disrespect, and I used them as fuel. She wanted a life that looked good in photos. She ended up with nothing worth capturing. I, on the other hand, stopped worrying about what my life looked like to others and started building one that felt good to me. And that's a victory no social media filter can ever replicate.